Yo, 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 people of the internets, of the interwebs, of all the I's and O's, the ins and outs, the binaries, all of that stuff. Welcome to the Outside the Box podcast. I am Jacques Slade. It's spelled Jacques, by the way, not Jock. I'm not French, but my name is. And I think that makes me fancy. So I'm going to hold on to that. But obviously, you guys didn't come to this show to hear me talk about my name, as fantastic as it is. Let's just say it that way. Really, there's two other people that really make this show. I am the bad influence. I am the reason you come to the party, and these two other people are the reason you stay safe at the party and you make it home safely. That is Tiffany and Nick. Nick, go ahead and tell them who you are.
Nick and Paul. I've worked in the footwear business for about a decade or so, and I'm not French either. I'm actually mostly Swedish. If you're ever on Jeopardy and need that fact for some reason, but I think Jacques just. I think Jacques just being modest, but I do think that we both kind of just look up to Tiffany and are here to learn from her. So Tiffany, go ahead and introduce yourself.
I'm Tiffany Beers. I am also not French, but my husband is.
Oh, that's cool.
These two are so modest. I mean, I'm just here to laugh. To talk and laugh about shoes. I mean, it's so great.
I love it when Tiffany plays so modest and she's so humble. Oh, it's adorable. It's adorable. Like, we all know the truth.
Oh, yeah.
But she's just like, no, I'm just Tiffany Beers. I just do some of the most amazing things you've ever seen. But, all right.
I put my pants on the same way you do, Jacques.
That is true. That is absolutely true.
I mean, I think so. I don't know that for sure, but I think.
Yeah, I mean, one leg at a time. One leg at a time.
One leg at a time.
One leg at a time. Well, welcome to the show, everyone. As always, we appreciate you. Thank you for listening. And today we're actually going to kick the show off with some, I would say, advice. You guys have been writing in, asking us questions about the industry, about social media, about sneakers and things like that. And we have a really good question today from the Instagrams, from Soulworks _. Hopefully you're comfortable with us sharing your name. But Soulworks wants to know how we handle the multiple hats we wear on a daily basis. So he wants to know any tips for managing work, hobbies, relationships, family, social media, and the million other things that you all do effectively. I'll just go ahead and jump in and lead this off. So Soulworks, here's the thing. You can't have a family if you want to manage things effectively. So you have to first, I'm just going to throw this out there, leave the family, and that'll free up a lot of your time. The family, as important as they may seem, what they're doing is they're holding you back. Really, there's a lot of opportunity for you in this world of social media and work and your hobbies and all those other things that you have to do. Like, without the family, it really makes things so much easier. Like, you've kind of got to step away. I mean, again, that's just my perspective, but I'll toss this to Tiffany and Nick and see. I mean, what do you guys think? Is how would you guide Soulworks?
You're up, Nick. I need a buffer.
Man. Go. So I'm gonna have to disagree with Jacques on this one. I think you got to have the counterbalance of family and all the chaos of the world. But I mean, for me, the just right off the top, the best tool that I've ever used, that I use right now, is called Evernote. I've used it for probably 5 or 6 years, and it's just something that I take notes in, save files in, throw things into when I know that I want to come back to them. Like, I am trying to make a habit of, like, I'm always thinking ideas, and if if you're close to me, you probably have gotten a random text at, a absurd time of like some crazy idea that it just came to me, and I was like, I had to share it with somebody. So for me, like, that kind of has become the place that I put that stuff, and it helps me stay connected. I can access it remotely from wherever, like whether it's on my phone or my laptop or logged in someplace else if I had to. So that's the first thing that comes to mind. But I actually think, like, like if you're like, I try to be very clear with people about how I communicate to them, or where I communicate to them, because a lot of times what happens is, like, I'll miss conversations across, let's say, Instagram DMs or Twitter DMs, because I'd rather have that conversation through a text message or maybe through an email where I can, be more regularly on it and accessible to people. So that's kind of like the main thing. And then the last thing, this probably makes some people completely uncomfortable, but I listen to podcasts at like 2 to 3 times speed. Like, I feel like I'm plugged into the Matrix. So if you get in the car and if you hop in the car with me and I've been listening to a podcast, it sounds like, the Micro Machine Man from back in the day, where you wouldn't be able to understand it, but I somehow am able to like ramp my way up to that speed, and it just helps me consume things. And I listen to a lot of stuff on organizing myself, performing, better, about, being more efficient with my time, with whatever I'm doing. So that's kind of something that I would look into, is like, not necessarily jumping into like full speed podcasts, but like podcasts in general. Like, there can be a lot of stuff where you can take information and apply it to your everyday life, one step at a time kind of thing. But how about you, Tiffany? Any good suggestions other than ditching your family?
Well, I mean, I don't disagree with Jacques, I will say that. But I have kind of a low maintenance family. I just have a dog and a husband. I don't have little ones or anything like that. I'm sure my perspective would be much different had I did. But,
right.
Like, I guess I just try and do the best I can every day, balancing wearing all these different hats, if I use that analogy correctly. I don't really like hats, so I sort of feel like I kind of feel like I'm not doing a good job at it, but after a while you just start to do the best you can, right? And some days you get some and some days you don't. Like, look at my studio. It's not done.
Right.
It's not even close. I'm in front of my fireplace. So it's like, I wish that would have been done in time for the podcast, so you just do the best you can, and instead of being stressed out about it all, I just make sure the energy I share with other people is good and positive, because you can easily get overwhelmed,
Yeah.
Like, for example, I haven't taped a YouTube video since November. I haven't posted, and believe me, I think every single day I am losing viewers, I am losing building my brand and all that stuff, but at the same time, I don't have the mind space, so when I come back, it'll be great. But you know what? I'm taking a break for now. So, I just try and do the best I can and try and include my family as much as I can, which is different than Jacques. I also tried listening. I tried to listen to podcasts because Nick said he listens to them at like 2 times speed or 5 times speed, whatever. I tried. I could not go more than 1 1/4. I was just like, what are they saying? I'm so far behind. I'm stuck on the words. I was lost. So I don't recommend moving up fast on the podcast. But it is a good way to absorb information and get some learning and knowledge in there. So I do like that. So it's all about perspective and how you go. I mean, Jacques, you do wear a lot of hats. I mean, you're so crazy busy, man. I don't know if you can tell us any other tips. I mean, the family one was great, but
all right. In all seriousness, I think it really comes down to really managing your time and making sure you take time away. I think a lot of time we put a lot of focus on making sure we're available all the time for like those extracurricular things, for the social media, or for making sure we're on, you know, our hobbies and all those things. What it really comes down to for me is I try my best to schedule things out. I don't always stay true to that schedule, and I rarely stay true to that schedule, to be honest. But the fact that I have one set up in my head, and I'm pushing towards getting that, that's where I earn the small wins every day.
Yeah.
So, you know, for me, social media is my job. So I'm on social media a lot, but I also know that sometimes I get on social media and I start messing around and just reading and looking at all sorts of things that have nothing to do with literally what I'm doing. And I have to catch myself and kind of pull myself back and being like, hey, stop just scrolling through Instagram. Why are you scrolling through Instagram? There's nothing here for you. Find something productive to do. And it's a matter of really self-managing yourself and finding the time to make sure you can step away. We don't have to be on social media all the time, although it seems like that, and it seems like everyone's always connected. Everyone's not always connected.
Yeah.
So don't worry about stepping away. Don't worry about you weren't signed on for a day. Like, everything's going to be okay. Social media is still going to be there. I think we feel like we need to be there all the time because we always want to comment. We always want to have something to say, or we just want to watch, or we just want to be caught up on things. But you can get caught up later. And usually when you get caught up later, it's probably way more effective as far as the information that you're getting than when you're constantly attached to it. And as far as your hobbies and all those things, again, it's just really making the time. At the end of the day, despite all my jokes at the start, your family is kind of what keeps you grounded and kind of helps you get away and disconnect from all of those things. You kind of treat them as your happy place, your place of peace, your place away, and the place where you can just be free and not stressed and not worry about work and all that stuff. So, you know, I would say definitely make time for them. There's that saying, you know, presence over presence. I mean, you know, I'd rather you be there with your family than you work hard and you can buy them, you know, a Ferrari or a Lamborghini. I think at the end of the day, they'd rather you be there with them. So, you know, at the end of the day, just take the time away and don't feel like you're beholden to those things. The only thing you're beholden to is your family, and everything else will kind of fall into place.
Yeah. So, I just want to add like a couple things to that, because you hit on some points that are really important. One thing that I think people, especially when it comes to social media, the information will make its way to you that needs to make it to you. Like, you don't have to know everything in the world that's going on every second of the day. And I think that's a hard thing for people to understand, because we're kind of programmed by social media to stay connected and stay looped in. But that's a part of, you know, what I would say the system of like looping you in and having you spend more time on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or Reddit or whatever that is for you. And it's totally okay to not pay attention to stuff all the time. And the important stuff will be repeated so many times that it will make its way to you. And something that, like, you know, I kind of, you know, got inspired by you, Jacques, and your running. You know, I've been running, you know, since the start of the year. And one of the toughest things for me is to not hold myself, not, you know, like hold it against myself if I need to take a day off. And, you know, that's a really tough thing for me, because I have ridiculously high standards for myself, and it keeps me from doing things in a lot of ways. So I would suggest, you know, looking at the bigger picture and saying, like, if your goal is to eventually, you know, have whatever it is, you know, run a marathon, have 1 million subscribers on YouTube, like, none of that stuff happens overnight, and none of it has to happen continuously every day or every hour of every day for the next 2-5 years, whatever that is, to get you there. You can take a day off here and there because it's going to be better for you in the long run. And I think that's really important to recognize, that the time away from it a lot of times makes you more motivated to move forward in a lot of ways. That's it. Off the soapbox.
Yeah, I agree. It's one of those things. I feel like we've all been programmed that, like, in order to be successful, we need to be Kobe.
Yeah.
And everyone that's successful isn't Kobe, and Kobe isn't everyone that's successful. And I'll kind of leave it at that.
Yep.
But switching gears here for a minute, because something really cool came out in the form of hiking boots. We often talk about sneakers here, but something really cool came out with hiking boots, and they're basically hiking boots made of graphene. Now, I have very limited understanding of what graphene is and what it does. I just know that it's something really cool. I know that it's an atom thick, and I know it's super strong and super light. But that's about the extent of my knowledge of it. So what I'm going to do is refer you guys to someone who knows way more about this than I do. Tiffany, can you bless us, please?
Well, yeah, I mean, we've heard a lot from graphene, and, it's the latest super material, lightweight, super strong, super small. It kind of is one of the dream materials, and it was invented, not super long ago. So in this particular application, right, so it's strong, it's small, it's lightweight. Right. So in this particular application, they put it in boots, right? And so they put it in the rubber to make it super durable and super lightweight. Now, I haven't tried these, and I've been on an environmental kick lately. So to me, I have to ask the question, like, if it makes it 50% more durable, like, will it ever biodegrade? Is it an environmental problem, actually? Or are people actually going to use it for the entire duration that it is? So you kind of, with these super materials, you get both sides. Like, they have great properties, but at the same time, some things that are perceived as great maybe aren't so great for some other things.
So my question to you then, Tiffany, is it better to have this material like graphene that obviously makes the shoes lighter and makes them more durable, but it sounds like your concern is that by the time the rubber does wear down, like, you've already trashed the upper and you've gotten rid of these shoes. Yeah,
exactly.
Where's the I guess in your mind, where's the balance for that?
It takes a lot of study, so in basketball, for example, right, with the Kobe's, they kept going lighter weight, and you got to a point where you got so lightweight that you started to impact durability. So instead of being lightweight, it started to turn into the right weight. Mm-hmm. So I think it's kind of along those lines. Like, you need the right durability for the entire product, so that it all kind of falls apart at the same time, if you will. And so that the consumer knows to, like, get rid of it. Now, it was different with soles of shoes, right? If the rubber wears off, you can get it resoled. You can go to a shoe cobbler. They're still around, and you can get more rubber put on the bottom of your shoe. But if the upper is gone, if the upper has holes, you might be able to do some patching, but I mean, there's blisters come to mind with however you would apply those patches. But when the upper wears out, you're kind of done. There's not much that you can do at that point. So I think it's all about understanding when your upper's going to wear out and when your sole's going to wear out. But clearly, the folks coming out with these graphene boots, I mean, they're just super happy to get graphene into rubber, into shoes, which is don't get me wrong, is a huge advancement in materials. Huge.
So I have a question for you, Tiffany. I can't remember where, but I know that I read that graphene was somehow going to be used in the automotive world. It made me think when you were saying that about, like, the time that it takes to wear down. How does that, well, we obviously don't know exactly, but how does something like carbon fiber wear down? Because that's something I think that, like, our listeners would have a kind of experience with through certain shoes anyway, so they might understand that a little bit better.
Yeah, so for carbon fiber is a little bit different. It's still a light, and I'm not a materials expert by any means, so I'm just sharing what I know. There's people that could share a zillion more information on this stuff, and we should have them on the show at some point.
Yeah,
but,
for sure.
Like, carbon fiber, it's all about the geometry, but it's a lightweight strength to ratio material. But it's all about geometry. So if you just took basically a molded flat piece of carbon fiber, you could easily, think of fiberglass. It's not that far off of that. It depends on the weave and things like that. But as soon as you crack it, it's done. It's done. It's lost its properties, right? So it's all about maintaining that original strength of it. So in cars, for example, if you have a carbon fiber hood and you get into an accident, that carbon fiber hood is done. It's not going to save you from that accident. The carbon fiber hood is going to make you go faster because it's lightweight.
Right.
covering. So in carbon used in shoes, so a lot of shank plates or midfoot plates in basketball shoes used to be carbon fiber. Now they're mostly plastics because the plastics are better pricing and you can do more with the shaping and things like that. But some are still carbon fiber. Like on the Air Jordan 29, I worked on that, and that was a carbon fiber plate still.
Okay.
And it was all about the geometry to get the amount of transition and amount of torsion control, right? So we added curvature into it to get the torsion control in there. But if we would have just put a flat piece of carbon fiber, it wouldn't have worked near as well. Carbon fiber also gives a little bit of energy return, right? But in a car as a hood, or maybe in a bike as a bike frame, you're not really looking for the energy return. You're looking for the lightweight strength so that you can go faster. So it's all about the application of it. Just like this graphene in the shoes, we saw a graphene jacket a few months back, right?
Yeah.
Actually, Jacques, did you get that
I bought
jacket?
one.
No.
I got one.
What do you think?
It's
Did
awesome.
You try it?
Yeah, I mean it's absolutely super lightweight, and it's hard to explain, but it feels like you know like those just ridiculously light windbreakers that are almost like rolled up, given away, like almost like poncho like thickness, right? It feels a lot like that, but it stretches, and I mean, I could literally probably. There's no way I could tear it, that I could find a way to do that. But like, you can pull on it and the material stretches like quite a bit. But I think, I mean, it obviously, like you both just hyped it up so much. I just got excited and I was like, I need to get this. This is way too cool. But it seems like something that, after buying the jacket and like thinking about how I would like to see it in so many other things, that it's got me excited about it. I've been looking at this kind of stuff coming out, ever since we talked about it. So,
were there warming properties about that jacket? Wasn't there something about it would keep you warm?
Yeah, it definitely does. It's not. It's hard to say. Obviously, I'm in LA, so I think last night was the coldest night we've had. It dropped down to 40 degrees for the first time, but exactly. So. But I do notice, like, I ran in it a couple times just because I like that it's so flexible and so light. I don't know that like the water resistant properties of it are quite what I was hoping for, because I was running in the rain on those days, but it's definitely intriguing to me after getting it. It makes me just want to see more and like experience more. But I would say that it feels like one of those really lightweight, like entry level windbreaker type things, but then it ends up like being warmer, like something that has a little bit of thickness to it.
Nice. Yeah, and I think that's the benefit we'll see from graphene. Things will be lighter weight and they'll be thinner because it's so strong and small, right? Yeah. But there are some interesting conductive properties of graphene, and we should talk about that in another episode.
Yes, definitely.
Yes. Now we're digging into some stuff. This is what I like. This is what I like to hear. But not to make the whole show about graphene, switching over to just like the tech in footwear in general. And there's a company called Zortech that's doing some pretty cool stuff when it comes to tech. They have things like what they call Digit Sole. They have a Warm series. They have safety shoes. They have M-Cube, and they have all these things that have technology that are tied to sneakers. Whether it's apps that track how you run and how fast that you've gone, or there's Zortech Smart Heating, which are warm insoles that connect through a dedicated app to a smartphone, which is just insane to me. And they have temperatures, get this, of 86 degrees to 113 degrees, and they have a built-in thermostat. Whatever. There's the safety shoes. Let me see. Zortech analyzes workplace activity and monitors distance, stairs, calories, motion, static ratio, one walk ratio to adapt and optimize movement, increase efficiency, and promote safety in the workplace. 3D foot pattern measures pronation to supination. So basically, there's this sector of the footwear industry that is really pushing the tech angle and using technology to find a way to make shoes better. And this is like we have obviously the Adapt BB and the things that Nike is talking about doing with that, but the potential, it seems like there's a lot more potential for connectivity or smart shoes than I think we all really realize. This Warm Series thing is just amazing to me. I can just imagine someone that's going hiking, and if they're hiking in the snow, or you get trapped in the snow and you have these warming insoles, like that could save your feet from frostbite or whatever, just keep you warm to keep you from frostbite. Like that just kind of like blows my mind. It's not something you necessarily think about when it comes to smart tech. You think about, oh, are these shoes going to make me fly? Are they going to make me run faster? But there's like a safety and almost like a utility approach to this smart tech, which is just really interesting to me. And the fact that they're analyzing like your stride in 3D when you're running, or like this safety where they're tracking where you're moving around on a work site to find out like how safe is it here, how safe is it there, where are things going wrong, where are you running, like all of those sort of things. That's pretty amazing to me. And maybe I'm just over the moon here just because I'm a tech nerd, but seeing those sort of like utility aspects to the footwear industry seems really exciting to me, to be honest. Am I way off here, guys, or am I what's
No, I agree. It's super exciting. I saw these guys at CES a few years ago, and I saw their, I think it was their adaptive insole, or they were naming it a little bit differently, I think, in the time, but they had some really interesting technology, and I think it reminds me of kind of when heart rate monitors came out, right? The first heart rate monitors came out, like everyone was super excited about it. Like I can wear it on my wrist, I can wear it as a ring, like I'm gonna know what my heart rate is. Everyone was really into it, but it was all about the accuracy, right? Because it was like, well, it's not accurate, so drop it, And so I think these guys are approaching it from a really interesting, workplace safety and kind of a safety thing, which I think is really smart. The question is, how accurate is it? How good is it? How is it going to help me? The last thing we want to watch is another, or have to check another set of data to know how our health is, or something like that. I mean, me personally, I love it, and I am checking it. I use Apple Health all the time, and I'm constantly have apps feeding it constantly. But I think for a lot of people, it's like, if you're gonna monitor me from a health and safety at workplace, is my workplace monitoring me? Is this more of like a Big Brother situation, or is this like truly gonna help me? So as interesting as it is, I think it's all about the application. And they mentioned several apps that they have, and I haven't checked them out yet, but it's all about how useful is it, and how can it be seamlessly integrated in my life and make my life better and easier, versus just being, anything that's just like exciting at first and then it'll fade away. But I mean, I think based on what we heard from the Adapt BB, they're going down the same path, right? They're talking about the future of being able to provide you data and these measurements and things. So
yeah,
that's
I think it's interesting.
Yeah, I think just reading through it, like, so part of the struggle for me in this whole new running in my life for the last month and a half or so is the last, I don't know, maybe like 4 or 5 days, I've been getting shin splints and just like pain in my lower leg. So I've kind of like stepped back away, and now I'm on an elliptical and a bike at the gym instead of running. But like one thing that's interesting about this is that it says it can take 3D foot patterns to measure pronation, supination, identifying and correcting bad posture. That to me is really fascinating because I can be conscious of it running to a certain extent, but a lot of times, you just get in the zone and you're going, and you're not thinking about specifically changing the way your stride is, the way your landing point is. And I also don't think that that's necessarily, as me being new back into running, I think that's something that's probably not something I should be trying to do on my own. But given something like this that could actually help kind of define it when it's happening, when I need to be paying more attention, or if I'm, off and like oh, you've been doing this, or you changed something, and we see that this could potentially be a problem to cause, more pain or more shin splints, down the road. That could be really, really useful. And I totally agree with Tiffany that like there's a certain element of all of these cool things that are coming out that you have to wonder about, like the big brother aspect of it, right? Because we have all these devices that are constantly listening, and I think that in general a huge majority of them are doing things for the better and making our lives better and improving our lives and making us more efficient. But there's some level of doubt for all of us, at least in my opinion, to whether or not these apps need to have access to everything that we do in life. So
what shoes are you wearing, Nick, when you're running? Sorry.
Pegasus 35s. Okay. Yeah, I'll probably go a few more days before I start again, and I'm probably going to switch to the Pegasus Turbo, just because I haven't, other than the first week or two that I got them, I haven't run in those consistently. So I'm kind of curious to get back to that. They became like a default, like I'm just going to wear these on a regular basis shoe, and this was before I started back into running. So
yeah, I've been running in the Hovrs, and they have the Bluetooth connection to MapMyRun, and it gives you information on like your stride and like the length of your stride and how many steps you're taking per minute and all of that sort of information. And I've been starting to notice that like in those points where I was tired, how much my stride changes and how many the steps per minute changes. So that's kind of helped me. And also I would say, maybe just try different shoes to see what works best for you. Because, everyone's foot is shaped differently. Everyone's pronation is different. So I would say just kind of, maybe go through a couple of different pairs of shoes and see which one works best for you. And maybe look at one of those apps that helps do like with your running posture, and that could do it as well. I know that's something that helped me. I worked with a coach when I was preparing for the marathon, and I was landing on my heels when I ran, and he coached me through, landing more towards the ball of my foot when I run, and it hurt for a little while at first because my calves were on fire.
Yeah.
But once I got used to it, it definitely made me a more efficient runner. So just something, just putting that out there just in case.
Yeah.
And for those that are listening that run, there's some opportunities. If you're having shin splints, maybe just try different shoes and all those sorts of things. But yeah, putting that out there.
That's interesting because that's like MapMyFitness, right? They've come a long way in providing data and getting more accurate and everything like that. It's like, I don't know if you guys have ever used Auto Sleep, but it kind of tracks your sleep. And it now has a new feature on it. And Jacques, do you pay attention to your heart rate, your variable heart rate, or your waking, resting heart rate at all?
No,
for your runs.
I do it like I have the app set to do it, but for some reason I don't know if my Apple Watch is broken or my watch isn't tight enough. But it never tracks that data. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. Maybe I'm doing something wrong.
So I just got it working. It's kind of like Nick. I started running about a month ago again. And so the three of us should go on a run. Hello, podcast on the run.
Hello.
Short run.
Hello.
But I started using this app, and it tells you your readiness basically in the morning. So like when you're 5 stars and it's green, you can do more of a workout that day and your body will recover faster. But like if you're red and you have no stars, you shouldn't, don't push it. And so I've kind of been following that because I know when I worked with some athletes, so I was at Nike, that they train that way. Like that's how they train. Like your body needs to recover certain times. Like if you're getting sick and things like that, it needs more time to recover. And they use heart rate and variable heart rate to measure these things. So I've been fascinating kind of watching this and following it. And so that might be something to watch too, Nick, and see. Your body is amazing at telling you when it's ready and when it's not, and when it likes something and when it doesn't. And there's a lot of push through the pain in running, which is absolutely like you got to push. Mental strength is so huge. But at the same time, if you're having serious pain, it's time to stop, and so I think this is really where tools are going to help us in the future as they evolve and come together. Like, you can just imagine in another 5 years, you're never going to have to question again. There will be an app that tells you exactly what to do, what shoe to wear, how to have your posture, and you're happy. You're happy running. Everyone loves running again, I hope.
That's amazing. Yeah, maybe I just need to tighten my watch up a little bit. Maybe I wear it too loose, and that's why it doesn't capture it. Or I don't know. Maybe I sweat too much. I don't know what it is. But when I run, it doesn't. It'll capture my heart rate during the day and all of that. But like when I go for a run, like it doesn't seem to be able to capture that. And maybe that's just something's wrong with me. Maybe I don't have a heartbeat. Maybe I'm dead. I don't know. Who knows?
You're probably running so fast.
Oh,
yeah. Confused.
That's what it is.
That's what it is. Yes, yeah. But speaking of tech in shoes and technology in general, we've been talking a lot about the Adapt BB, but our friends over at PUMA, they have a little something as well, and theirs is called the PUMA. I'm going to say it's PUMA Phi. It's part of the PUMA Fit Intelligence System, and it's their self-lacing shoes. And they've taken a slightly different approach to it. So their shoe is not going to be available until 2020, although they're sending it to like technology people to preview it. And actually there's a beta program as well. So if you are tech inclined, there's something for you there. Pricing for the shoes is going to be $330, which is obviously $20 cheaper than the Adapt BB. But these are not slated to come out for another year, and it's just barely February of 2019, so these could come out in November of 2020. So that's you never know. They don't have really a date, so that leaves a bit of a sour taste in my mouth. It's almost like they're just putting out the samples of these and letting people try out the samples. But there's been a few tech reviews of them online. People have looked at them, and they just operate a little bit differently than the Adapt BB. The engine is actually on top of the shoe. It's on where the laces would go, and the laces it appears that the laces pull into the engine at the top, as opposed to having the laces go over the top of your midfoot and pull down into the engine at the bottom, which is what we have with the HyperAdapt and the Adapt BB. It looks like it uses the BOA system, or something very similar to the BOA system, with the cords that they're using. It doesn't look like traditional laces. These are in all black, which is generally what they do with samples when they don't want people to know what shoes they're using. So that kind of also gives me the feel of a sample. And it has obviously a big box. They charge wirelessly. They have LED lights on the front. The user interaction is a little different. Instead of there being buttons on the shoe, you swipe up and down on I would say a controller. I think that's what you call that, a controller where that houses the engine. And they also have an app as well where you can do some things to tighten the shoes or loosen the shoes. But again, it's not mandated to be on the app. You can do it directly on the shoes as well. So I obviously think, all right, this is cool. This is, all right. I love that people are out here. They're really getting after it. So I'm going to toss this to Tiffany. She is the resident expert in self-lacing technology. So, kind of, if you can, Tiff, give us your thoughts from the user interaction to the design to the decision really to put the engine on top as opposed to hiding the engine.
Yeah, happy to help. Happy to add input here. So, first of all, the launch date sometime in 2020. Hello, is this Game of Thrones? Is this Game of Thrones in shoes? Like, are we ever gonna see these things? I mean, that's all I have to say about the marketing. I think it's really interesting. I really like the user interface where you pull up, you just swipe up on it, and you swipe down. I am concerned. Like, I think that could be a really cool interface. I am concerned though. Like, It does say for lightweight running, so light running and gym kind of training workouts. So I think the big difference you're going to find between the Adapt BB and this is the Adapt BB seems pretty serious performance, where this is like a light touch into performance, maybe even lighter than their last version, which also came out around the time the HyperAdapt did. So I think it's fascinating that they're kind of matching on some level what Nike's doing. I think from an engineering perspective, being on the top, although I think it looks a little bit odd, but it's getting better. The visual's getting better. Mm-hmm. It is shorter to pull the laces, right? From underneath the foot, you have to pull them further under kind of where the lacing system would go, right? So I think they are saving some space in their mechanism or motor because they are on top of the shoe, but I doubt they're getting probably as good of a fit. Although until I try them, I'm not exactly sure. I think the BOA lacing on it can be very effective. It can also be very painful. You know, with a motorized system, you usually can go a little tighter than you can with laces or than you would with laces. So with the thin cable, without enough padding, that could definitely be a concern. And it looks like it's a mesh upper. So I'm curious of what kind of reinforcement in there. Wireless charging, it better be. I mean, at this day and age, it definitely should be. I didn't notice they talked about battery life or anything, though. I'd be curious to understand what that is and if they're doing any kind of auto adjustment or auto adapting of any sort. I would think they'd be kind of going after that. Price point, I'm not surprised. If I was them, I probably would have put it, no matter what, less than Nike's, even if I couldn't make it for that, just to, you know, it's a year and a half to launch. A lot of things can change. So, I think it's interesting. You know, I'm glad they're out there. I don't think it's a serious competitor yet, though. But they do have the backing of the MIT program, right? And how they're working with the design lab there. I think that would create some serious horsepower behind whatever PUMA is doing.
Yeah, I think it's awesome. I mean, I'm a fan of, you know, the PUMA disc system. Like, I just always love that kind of weird stuff. So that's been around for a long time, and this just looks like a new version of it that's, you know, updated and obviously, you know, automated. And I think that, you know, having the system on the top of the shoe just feels like there's a connection to their, you know, previously released disc system shoes. And my, you know, my thought is like that's probably good for their marketing team, you know, to be able to kind of connect those dots. I do think it's super weird that they're sending it out and letting it, you know, go out so early when the shoe's not going to be ready for another year plus. It does look like they have batteries underneath the insole, which, and you know, it comes with like an extra charger, so you can have extra batteries, which is kind of interesting, but still, you know, from a, you know, like just normal use, like the idea of like having to stop and take your shoe off to put a new battery in is kind of weird. But maybe something that all of us are going to be doing in the future. It's just, you know, as these kind of technologies push forward. And I think it's awesome that they're at least moving at a similar pace as Nike. You know, we talked about before, I think it's going to be really hard for anybody to compete with Nike. They kind of already have the you know, just not even just in footwear, right? Like they have like the global recognition because of Back to the Future, and you know, anything that anybody does with auto lacing is going to be instantly compared to that, regardless of what it does or how it works, or even, you know, it could be a completely different style, and they're going to instantly take it and say, well, how does it compare to, you know, the HyperAdapt? And I think that's obviously like a great standard to put anything against. So to me, like the cool factor of this is,
of course it is.
Exactly. The cool factor to me on this is that it is a much, at least from a, you know, from first glance, it looks like it's a much smaller, slimmer fit, which is kind of interesting because I'm curious to see if consumers having the mechanism on the top of the shoe and having the shoe be a more refined fit or slimmer design makes it. I'm curious, like, if people are going to care about that. Like, are people going to want to show off that piece of technology and have the lights on the top of the shoe that show that they have the latest and greatest kind of thing? Or is it one of those things where we already know what we like shoes to look like, and as the like the BB and the HyperAdapt before it, like, still have a very similar overall aesthetic to what we all are comfortable with as consumers?
Yeah, Go ahead, Tiffany.
I was just going to say, yeah, I agree. I mean, I think time will tell on that, and sales, but clearly, like, Nike proved there's a market for it, and Puma's been in the same market, so I always thought that, Nike would forever own it because of Back to the Future, but I don't know, like, if that was the case, I don't think Puma would still be playing in this zone. I don't know.
Yeah, they had that first one in. I mean, something obviously that's a bit different about this one is the removable battery.
Mm-hmm.
So you can charge them wirelessly through like the Qi charging system, or you can take the batteries out and charge them externally in an external charger, which I imagine would allow you to just put in different batteries. So if you had an extra set or whatever, you could just throw those in, and that's a unique angle. And I think Nike is obviously taking the Apple approach, where it's like nothing is removable, you get what we give you, and Puma is taking more of like the Android approach, where making it a little more customizable and allow you to have a little more control over what's happening in the shoe, which is a pretty unique angle to me. I'm just amazed by everything that they're doing, and how these two brands are almost competing in a space that hasn't been created yet, I guess is what you would say it is.
Yeah, that's true.
And they're really setting us up to see where things can go and what the future can be. It's exciting to me to see this happening, and just the two different design languages, and it's almost like, okay, so which one's going to win out? Is it the hidden approach, or will consumers want to see the engine on top? Is that do they want it to be hidden, or do they want people to know that they have something that's next level, or something that's beyond the norm? I don't know.
Yeah.
It tickles me.
Yeah.
And it gets me excited.
Yeah, the battery part is really interesting to me, because it does say it lasts 5 days, including for letting you train and self-lace. So they do have a self-lace feature on it. So the batteries being replaceable, that creates a mess and creates convenience at the same time, because if they come out with new battery technology that maybe lasts longer and they fit it in the same cavity, great, you get more battery, right?
Right.
But if you keep it longer than the battery life, you can still live, where the Nike version, you're going to have to replace that battery. And I'm sure people will do it on the side, take them apart and replace the battery. But then on the Puma side, you also have contacts that a battery. So if sweat and dirt get into that battery cavity, you're going to have a big problem. So there's pros and cons to both system. I think, I think they both use Qi chargers. Is Nike's a Qi charger?
Yeah,
also?
they use Qi as well.
And the advantage to Qi is you lose the charger, you can still find other Qi chargers out there. So that's definitely a benefit for both too. It's going to be exciting. Jacques, do you have the Puma? Are you going after the Pumas? Are you gonna review these?
Yeah, I've been trying my best. I've been talking to all my Puma contacts, trying to get a pair so I can unbox them on the channel and really get a closer look. I have failed thus far, but they won't stop me. I'm going to continue trying. No, seriously, I'm really excited about these, and I want to get my hands on them. And I think it's something that the consumer should see. I think a lot of if Puma's going to be successful, it needs to go beyond the tech space, and I think they've been really focused on the tech space with these. I think I first saw it on Engadget or something like that, so I'm looking for them definitely to expand and to open it up. But with that being said, there are 3 hot topics. Nick, I'm going to go ahead and throw this one to you and let you talk about some of the hot topics that they have here, which because I feel like I've been talking a lot during the show. So I'm going to let you jump into the 3 topics and get us started. What are the 3 hot trends that are happening in sneakers?
So I think we're looking at a Footwear News article, and the first one that they have listed is innovation beyond comfort, and I think that's kind of looking at, well, in a sense, what we're talking about today, right? Graphene, new materials, auto lacing, all of these things that are more than just an updated version of Boost or an updated version of Air. And I think, we've talked about on the show many times, but, Tiffany, you touched on it a bit ago, like the sustainability thing and wondering where things are going to go that are going to be better for the environment. And to me, like, that's just such an important piece, right? And I think I've learned so much talking to you about it, just in that, there are a lot of, there's just a missing thought process for consumers because people don't think about beyond right now, right? Like I until we started talking about this, I never, I consider myself, somewhat of a aware person when it comes to, thinking about being friendly to the environment and, recycling and buying things that are friendly and trying to do my part to make the world last longer. But one thing that you brought up earlier today, and you've brought up consistently, is the recycling aspect of shoes. I'm curious, I guess, since this is, one of the topics, what do you think is when do you think there'll be a consumer-facing piece that talks about the afterlife of footwear?
Oh, well, that's a great question.
And maybe we can go into it in depth on another episode or something if we need to, but it's something that you've been put in my mind, and I just constantly think about now when I'm looking at shoes to buy even.
Yeah, and I mean, to be clear, all this great tech in shoes is the complete opposite. The more electronics you put in, the worse off you are environmentally, right? Because electronics use metals and things that are actually we shouldn't be using from the environment. I mean, shouldn't is a strong word, but we should be cautious with using up our natural resources and things like that. I think it's becoming more and more aware. And I think until a footwear brand does it really, really well, which I think Allbirds gained all that attention, and Allbirds is at the forefront of shoes, and they're such a tiny, small brand. Right. And they do casual wear shoes, but they told a really good story. And it's on the front end, and now it's on the back end. They're talking about recycling more. So until a brand does it really, really well, and I kind of expect them to do it, I think it'll always be in the back of people's minds. The same thing about when cans started to be recycled. Mm-hmm. You could take your cans in and you got money for them. It wasn't that you were recycling. The reason that people brought their cans, it was because they got money.
It was because they got money.
It's not. Unfortunately, we're not motivated by saving the environment because we don't directly see the impacts necessarily. All the time. So in the shoe world, unless you roll past a landfill and you see shoes all over the place, I don't think you're going to think twice about your shoes. Yeah. And a lot of people, they just shove off all their shoes to Goodwill, even the bad ones, and then Goodwill has to deal with it and figure out, can we clean these up or not? So I think it's a complicated topic that the more we talk about it and the more other people talk about it, it will get resolved faster. So I'm glad you guys enjoy it because I do plan to keep talking about it.
Me too.
Yeah, and actually, I think this is something that we can actually dig into a lot more. But audience, unfortunately, we've come up against our time for the show today. So we're going to table this one for today, because we want to talk about this a lot more. We want to talk about the innovation that goes beyond just comfort. We want to talk about sustainability, which is obviously a big thing when it comes to sneakers and just with everything in general. This is a conversation that can go beyond sneakers. And also, we just want to talk to you about your loyalty to brands and how does your brand loyalty affect your buying decisions and things like that, because I know it affects mine. And it influences me in a way that, I'm not necessarily comfortable with. But I know it's something that I need to deal with on my own, and I'd love to hear from the audience as well. But again, we'll push all that to next week. So make sure you guys come back next week, because we definitely want to dig into this, and we definitely want to hear from you guys about it as well. I am Jacques Slade. This is what we call the Outside the Box podcast. You can find us at Outside Pods all over the internet. That's on Twitter, Instagram. We're not on TikTok yet, but we're working. We're going to find a young teenager to let us know exactly what TikTok is first, so we have a better understanding. We're not on Snapchat either, just because we're obviously not cool enough to be on Snapchat, but we're working on that. We're working on our cool points, people. You can find me at Cousteau all over the internet. That's Kustoo. But as always, that would be a total waste of your time. Really, if you want to follow some insightful, thoughtful, genuinely super smart, intelligent, and great people, make sure you follow Nick and Tiffany. Nick, tell them where they can find you.
You can find me at Nick Engvall, NickEngvall on all platforms, and also at Sneaker History on all platforms. But I digress. I'm really just here to learn from Tiffany, and I'm looking forward to next week's episode. So, Tiffany, go ahead and let them know how they can find you.
Tiffany Beers on all of the internets, Instagram, YouTube, Pinterest, Poshmark,
Oh.
Everywhere where Jacques is, you'll find me. Just kidding. I'm not on Tinder.
You don't know what you're missing, Tiffany. You don't know what you're missing. Look, people. We started this show with relationship and advice about, jobs and, being focused on your future. That's kind of what we do here. So feel free to send us your requests, your questions. We're here to make your life better. So again, leave your family. Anyway, as always, guys, we appreciate you listening. Thank you for listening on iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, wherever you can find the podcast. We appreciate you listening. I am Jacques Slade. That's Nick. That's Tiffany. This is the Outside the Box podcast. Again, Outside Pods everywhere on the internet. We appreciate you guys, and we'll see you soon. Peace.